Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Patch 7.11 is just around the corner, so let's check out what's changing and also who is probably going to become a ton stronger because of everything. Now let's start with the mid lane, and finally Ahri is actually getting a nerf after being probably the best mid laner for like 6 months, well pretty much the entire of season 7. To be honest, these changes are not even that big, but maybe they're going to help a little bit. Your WAP ratio is down, your E charm ratio is actually up, but your ultimate ratio is going to be down a bit. They're trying not to nerf her too bad, but basically making her like a little more skill orientated, I guess. Like, you know how some Ahris miss everything but they kill you anyway? Well, this is like 15% less ratio on non-skill shots you cannot miss and 10% more on the charm. It's like if you dive into a fight late game, you miss everything, your W and R are less likely to burst them anyway. That's kind of the change we're looking at. Now anyway, there is actually a much bigger one. So another Malzahar rework, the new Rise boys. Like this is like 3 or 4 maybe reworks for him now. Anyway, your Q cast time is lower, but your W, your voidlings, has been reworked again. Casting other spells gives you stacks of these voidlings, which increases the number you summon, a maximum of 2 now. They actually have proper health now. They deal more damage, more armor, and magic resist, but there is kind of like a downside. Tower and champion basic attacks will instantly kill these voidlings regardless of how much health they have. Your E ratio is also up, and your ultimate is also being reworked, the damage side anyway. It's going to do the same thing, but the AoE deals much less now, but the beam actually does additional damage. So it's less percentage damage from the pull underneath, but more base damage from the beam, and actually a sick 115% AP ratio on that beam. So the big thing is really with Malzahar, like late game, if you combo someone properly with your ultimate, you will do damage to squishy targets a lot more, and your voidlings will also do more to them as well. Voidlings are going to be worse early really, but they scale into the game much better now. They're actually going to have like more stats across the board at level 18. Your R beam actually doing damage now is pretty huge. Like not a lot of people knew this, but before his ultimate pull damage was everything, and that was all percentage health damage. It was actually quite a lot, but it was also why he was so good at killing tanks. But it meant early game you weren't exactly the best at killing people because percentage doesn't mean much when they only have 1,000 health. Now you do have base damage though. If you catch the enemy mid laner, you're going to do a lot more overall, and it also means maybe support is a little bit better again, like more base damage. As we said, the ultimate has a 115% AP ratio though, which is insane for an AP ratio. It's not that hard to stack it, right? 600 AP late game is pretty easy. You're doing close to like 1200 damage just from the ultimate base plus the percentage damage as well, so close to like 1500. Obviously that's if you don't get cancelled, but if someone just QSS's, the damage actually still applies. 99% sure on that. And your voidlings now seem to instantly die if hit by an enemy champion, so they're pretty crap for poke trades. I'm not sure what you guys think. It's a pretty big change actually. It seems like he's going to be back to a good mid laner though again, not just a support. So overall we have Ahri slightly weaker and Malzahar seems to be a fair bit stronger, but that means that we're going to see probably Malzahar as an answer to Kassadin a bit more. In theory you can actually lock him down when he dives in, you poke him. It's actually quite tough to play against, and if we do see that, then Kassadin will fade out of the meta a bit, and these mages he counters will also get a lot stronger because of that. It kind of seems like we're going to be back to a very heavy mage meta mid lane again. Now anyway, AD carries also have some big changes. So Caitlyn's the first one. Your base attack speed is a little bit down, but your passive now doesn't stack multiple times with runes anymore. This is pretty big for sure. Like runes has been what everybody bought for so long, right? It was so good for wave clear, late game damage. If you didn't know, headshots actually honestly were a lot of your damage late game, and it also helps your mid game as well. Like more headshots, again, more auto attack damage, which is what most crit users actually suck at to start with, because normally you need more items to make your autos actually hurt. Is it over for Caitlyn though? Is she going to be crap? Probably not, to be honest. Like I think it'll make her weaker, but it doesn't kill her. Especially actually considering at the moment some people, and I've been trying this as well, going Shiv Infinity Edge rapid fire cannon with warlords. You're going to be using the Shiv lightning as extra damage because it recharges more instead of more headshots basically. To be honest, unless you're hitting like 3 targets at once in a team fight, runes isn't that optimal anyway, so sometimes it can be really good, sometimes not as much. I think we're going to see a shift into this new build. I'm going to test it some more. Maybe you guys can test it and let me know as well, but there's no massive reason to get runes, but she'll still be good. Now Lucian is also getting a nerf. Your Q mana cost is up 20 late game. It's not massive, right? But you max this first, and it's like before you'd be able to use Q 4 times, and now you can only use it 3 times for the same cost. If you use it in that way, or you kind of think of it like that, it seems a bit bigger, right? You're losing one lot of Q damage and passive shots as well. This patch is also going to be worse for him because of the blade change. So the lifesteal is down 3% to 12% now overall, and the minimum damage from the on hit is 15 from 20. The big thing here really is the lifesteal. So not only does it apply to normal damage, but remember it's the percentage damage on the blade as well. That 8% on hit damage on the blade, that applies lifesteal. So this is more of a hit than if they took 3% off a Bloodthirster, if that makes sense. For a few champions, it's actually even worse though. So Lucian gets the passive shots, right? You're actually losing 6% lifesteal basically because you passive shot twice. So that really sucks. Twitch as well, your ultimate hits multiple people, but it's the same deal with Ruinage users. Hitting multiple people means you lose more than 3% lifesteal effectively. Also finally Cogmore, Ruinage, but also Rage Blade, applying that percentage damage 3 times every 2 hits. It means that lost lifesteal hurts a lot more when you're applying the percentage damage more. What this already means is Blade is not as good lifesteal wise mainly. Caitlyn has a new build probably, and Lucian is not going to be as strong either. Cogmore and Twitch I think actually will feel the blade changes more than anyone else, apart from Lucian. So what this means is we're probably going to see more Jinx, a good crit champion anyway, who was just kind of overshadowed by Caitlyn, and Runes is still very, very good on her. Maybe more Death Stance Lucian instead of Blade, but I'd expect others to adapt their builds as well. It might not seem like it, but a lot of the reason Blade was so strong was because the healing was so good. I also imagine this means crit champions are now just even better if the Blade counter has been nerfed, right? So Twitch, Draven, Jinx, Zaya, Caitlyn spring to mind. They're all likely going to be top tier. Now let's move on to the top lane. So Yasuo, the duration of stacks down to 6 seconds from 10. This is one of those things that is going to suck balls if you're a bad Yasuo player, because you actually have to plan out trades more. You have to be a bit more careful, and you have to use your brain. Something most Yasuo players are probably not used to doing. The biggest thing this actually means though is in lane, when he has his tornado, you kind of want to stay back, right? You wait for it to time out, then you go in afterwards. So this is going to reduce the time he can zone you, and also in theory increase the window you have to trade with him. It's going to make his lane phase a bit more manageable. Plus, if you can zone him away from the wave a bit, it's going to be much harder for him to get stacks of his Q if they aren't lasting as long. Another change is the Ninja Tabi. So it's now getting 10% blocked instead of 12%. It's not a ton here really to say it's only like 2%, right? But you might not want to get Tabi every single game now. It's not completely as broken as before, but it's still pretty legit. So Maokai is a bit bigger though. So your passive cooldown is lower at lower levels, and you also heal for less base, but more from your HP. So more percentage health. Your E damage is down, so it's 1% per 100 AP from 2%, and also the duration now scales with health as well. So it's 30 seconds plus health from 30 to 70. This actually might be the death of AP Maokai now. Both making his E and passive scale with his total HP means he actually kind of needs to build tank. As a cheese pick, it's pretty good, but it's not that legit anymore, if that makes sense. You might even want to play this as tank support though. The main thing here is actually the duration of the sapling. So only lasting 30 seconds, maybe 40 now with like an AP build instead of 70 seconds. That's pretty crap. It's so much harder to stack a bush and do these one-shot cheese, right? Especially since Thunderlords doesn't even proc anymore. I'm not sure if he's going to be good top or not as a tank. I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen him top at all, only as support. So we'll see how this patch goes on, I guess. Now the changes before to Renekton were introducing a few bug fixes basically that screwed him over in 7.9. So this will mean Renekton is back to being pretty strong again because they're getting reverted. Especially with Yasuo getting weaker, I think we'll see a spike back up in win rate of this guy actually. He did kind of suffer quite a lot in 7.9 and nobody really noticed, but this should bring him back up again. There are a few smaller changes to some tanks though. So Mundo, you have base damage growth up a bit and your W slightly more per tick. It's a nice start, but it's not massive. But I do actually think he's already decent as a giant meat shield anyway. He does some okay damage in lane, but he's not as bad as everybody thinks at least. Malphite also has his armor ratio up on his E. Again, same idea where out of most tanks, his win rate has actually been the highest for a little while. I don't think he's overpowered or anything, but he's definitely viable if you want to play a tank, and especially against a full AD or like a heavy AD team. With Sion, you have the W cooldown down 2 seconds and the percentage max health from that shield is up 2% as well. He's probably the biggest carry tank you can play except maybe Galio. I guess he does a lot of damage in the lane phase actually that people just do not expect. He's not that popular, but it's same for the other two, right? Like they're all viable I think, but tanks are not the best in general right now. I don't think much is going to change with the top lane, so we're going to move on to the jungle, and this is probably going to have a little bit of an impact because we have two reworks, to Kindred and to Rek'Sai. The first one, Kindred, I'm going to go over abilities very quickly, but this is probably going to be the bigger one versus the Rek'Sai rework. So a passive now does not have percentage damage on her attacks, but every 2 marks you now gain bonus attack range, 75 for the first time you proc this and 25 for each 2 stacks afterwards. Also per stack, your Q is going to have 5% bonus attack speed, your W and your E is going to have 0.5 percentage damage added onto it. By the way, that very quickly adds up. The attack speed on the Q, the bonus damage on your W and E, and also your range. You'll be surprised how quickly you can actually get that now that it's only 2 stacks per level up of the range. So the Q is basically the same, but it grants attack speed for up to 6 seconds on cast as well, and the AD ratio is also going to be up. With your W, you can actually move the circle around her to start overwalls as well. You doesn't just cast automatically on top top of her anymore. It's actually magic damage, which is nice so that you can have a bit of a mix, and it has the percentage damage, which is increased by the stacks of her passive, as we said. The E is the same idea, slows, but it's the base damage down, AD ratio up, and the percentage damage is increased by her passive. There is a new thing with this though, and the big reason why crit is actually very good on her. You're going to be critting targets below 15% health for 50% more damage, but it actually scales. So crit chance is going to increase that 15% up, so you can reach a point where it does like 50% more damage below 60% health. Now remember, that is percentage damage that is being increased as well, which is why I think it's kind of overpowered, honestly. Her ultimate is also completely the same. So overall, it's a very good late game build now with stacks, and probably as an AD carry as well as a jungler. You have really high range, you're very safe, and you scale amazingly with crit. Now those are all things you definitely want as an AD carry. It's a lot like Xayah actually, why she works. That is the same reason Kindred, I think, works as an AD carry. She's a very good natural tank buster though, with all that percentage damage that you're getting from your passive. So if we move on to Rek'Sai, as I said, probably a bit less than the Kindred. Your passive is the same, but the Fury generation is quicker now. You regen health quicker as well, but it's less health overall, so you're designed to use this more often. The Q base damage is down, but the AD ratio has been doubled, and the Burrow version actually has a 40% AD ratio now and does AD. You know, like that little missile you fly when you're under the ground. Your W knockup is going to be now single target, and it only knocks back others around briefly, but same idea. Your E-bite has the damage up, but it's mainly about the tunnel actually. This is a really big change. You have a lower cooldown for building tunnels, but actually a cooldown to use a recent tunnel is down to 2 seconds from 6 rank 5. That means that if you make a tunnel, next 2 seconds you can use that again to escape, so you can dive in and out of fights so easy, and this is kind of where the full damage playstyle comes into it. Your ultimate has been completely different. So 1500 range, which is semi-high. When you deal damage to an enemy, you mark them. You can charge at these marked targets doing a crap ton of damage. 400 base plus 140% bonus AD. That ratio is insane. Plus it also does 30% of their missing health, so it's an execute. You're designed to go in, use your full combo, tunnel back out again, and then use this as a finisher. Overall, you have insane damage now as Rek'Sai. You're kind of a diver who can burst people very hard with a bit of AD now. I really doubt you'll be building her tank anymore. You'll either go bruiser or like assassin, kind of like a Nocturne. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of these changes in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, but for now, I'll leave you with the robots.